Those who make peaceful revolution impossible will make violent revolution inevitable.
Revolution.
First, what is a revolution?
Revolution is the solution, hey.
The motive of a revolution.
Well, now,
The objective of a revolution.
we televised.
And the result of a revolution. And the methods used in a revolution.
I know you know. Put my gun away. Never gonna put my gun away. Put my gun away. See that might be better run away.
This generation of Americans has already had enough, more than enough, of war and hate and oppression.
Hello, Internet. It's been a while, and I apologize, but we are back. It is so good to see you guys. It's been so long. I don't even know if anyone will be in the chat tonight. Hopefully you will. Missed you guys. I feel like it's been like 6 weeks at least. YouTube says it's only been a month, but if you guys are here, if you guys are still sticking with me through my long hiatus, I appreciate it. Jump in the chat, say hello. You know how it helps my self-esteem. I feel like I owe you guys a bit of an explanation because I didn't intend to take this long of a hiatus. It just sort of happened that way. First, I was just a little burnt out. Needed like take a week off, something like that. And that happened to coincide with the whole Thomas Massie election, which really just, no matter how you feel about Thomas Massie, you should be pissed about how that whole thing played out. And it was just a big kick in the balls to me and all other libertarians alike. And that sort of just got me not really wanting to pay attention to any of this shit. Because, there's a lot of people that do this kind of thing for a living, and I don't. I have an alternate career. I have an alternate life. I have things that I like to do and enjoy. And politics, you got to kind of be cut out of a certain kind of cloth to just be completely immersed in this stuff all day long, every day, be on Twitter, just finding what the most recent stories are and what everybody's talking about. And, it like sort of wears away at your soul if you're not sort of cut out for this thing. And I weigh whether I am or not, but I am addicted to politics and just sort of knowing what's going on, current events and why things are the way they are. So I can't, I don't plan on ever fully quitting this thing, but from time to time, I'm just going to take a big giant break. CC Pino, nice to see you. Yara, nice to see you. Thanks for sticking with me. I appreciate it. Good to see all you guys. So yeah, the Thomas Massie thing happened. And then there was the whole California primary, which I just pretty much missed. I was paying attention to it, but I didn't do any streams talking about it. And I thought Steve Hilton the same thing was going to happen to Steve Hilton that happened to Spencer Pratt, where Spencer was clearly going to move on. And then just slowly they just kept counting ballots until Nithya Ramamanian, whatever her freaking name is, Nithya Raman, just snuck her way in there even after she pretty much conceded the election. But we're not going to talk about that tonight. It's old news. It's old news, you guys. So, and also, it's been so long, I sort of didn't know where to start. Peak, nice to see you, man. Yeah, I haven't seen you in a while. I haven't seen a lot of you guys in a while. I even had to call my buddy Lonnie. I was just like, dude, I don't even know where to start when I come back. So much shit has happened in the last 6 weeks, and I don't know where to start. And he was like, probably just, start with what's going on right now. Even though there's a bunch of things that happened that I want to cover. I want to talk about the Thomas Massie stuff, but I'm not going to. I'm not going to get into it. I'm going to stay in my lane, you guys. I'm going to stay in my California lane, talk about that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's been also, I should mention, I was just on this huge work project where I had to work weekends and I just didn't have time to stream. So that played into it. And I may or may not have met somebody that I've been hanging out with a lot. So, there's just a lot of stuff going on. I have a life. I have a life too, you guys, but I appreciate all you guys being here. And yeah, that's sort of it. That's sort of why I took my hiatus. Some of you guys might care. Most of you guys probably don't. So we'll get right into it. We'll talk about this person wearing a wire in Gavin Newsom's inner circle, shall we? So I'll read this article, but I don't need to share it on screen. I don't think any of you guys are going to read along with me. So this is from the California Post, written by Josh Cohen. Okay. FBI infiltrated Gavin Newsom's inner circle by convincing governor's ally to wear a wire. How interesting. So this stuff sort of ties into the Javier Becerra, Dana Williamson, Gavin Newsom's former chief of staff. And I think it even ties into like the Rob Bonta, Sheng Tao, former mayor out of Oakland, and the Duong brothers and all that shit. I think all this shit ties together, but there's a massive California FBI probe going on right now. You may hear my Great Dane growling in the background, and I apologize for that. All right, so here's the article. Let's just read and see what they have to say. The FBI had a mole inside Gavin Newsom's political orbit before the agency corruption probe expanded into the government and his wife, the Post learned. Democrat insider Alexis Podesta, 45, secretly recorded conversations during the criminal probe into Newsom's then chief of staff, Dana Williamson, 53, who pleaded guilty to federal fraud and tax charges in May, according to Williamson's attorney. They continue. The revelation she was wearing a wire as far back as June of 2024 explains why a swath of Sacramento political insiders and lobbyists were stunned to receive FBI letters last fall, informing them that their phone calls had been intercepted during the investigation, despite many having little or no connection to Williamson. Alexis wore a wire and Dana did not, said McGregor Scott, Williamson's lawyer and former U.S. attorney for the Eastern District of California, which is now investigating the Newsoms. Uh-oh. The disclosure comes as Newsom announced last month that his wife, whose nonprofit has been burning through money in recent years, as well as members of the governor's inner circle that are under federal investigation. Within hours of that announcement, Newsom blasted out an email to raise money for a political action committee. It's always... I'll just finish before I give my 2 cents. Assembly member Josh Hoover, Republican out of Folsom, told the Post he was among those who received one of the letters, even though he had never spoken to either Williamson or Podesta. A lot of people received letters essentially informing us that there were certain periods of time where the FBI was given access to follow phone calls, Hoover said. I don't know how these investigations work, but it sounds like they cast a pretty broad net across the Capitol community to see what they could find. All right. So a separate source with knowledge of the matter said that they knew of 4 Sacramento insiders who also received FBI notifications confirming they had recorded. I mean, 4 other people were wearing a wire? That's pretty wild. One recipient told the source, "Dude, I got this effing letter. I never even met with Dana Williamson." Their curiosity was that they never even met with Dana Williamson, so they were wondering what this was all about, the source said. And now you have the answer. The governor publicly accused President Trump of directing the Justice Department to investigate him as political retaliation ahead of a possible 2028 presidential campaign. So it's funny that like Democrats are all saying this, that Trump's going after Gavin Newsom, and he very well may be going after Gavin Newsom as a targeted, politically motivated investigation. But didn't the Democrats kind of start this with trying to impeach Trump for a second time, trying to lock him up for the rest of his life with bogus charges, all these things that they did against Trump, and now he's back in office. And I mean, this whole thing it's just going to escalate and escalate and escalate until people eventually get thrown in prison. Do I think anything will happen to Gavin Newsom or his wife? Absolutely not. I don't care. They could find dead bodies in their backyard, and I still don't think anything would happen to them. These are the political elites. Nothing ever happens to them. If anything happens, it'll be some low-level people will get charged. They'll take a slap on the wrist plea deal, and just to say they did something. That's all that ever happens. Okay. So Trump had previously called for Newsom's arrest, but sources familiar with the matter told the Post that federal investigators have spent the last year digging into not only Newsom, but also his staff and his wife's taxes, leading Sybil Newsom to accuse Trump of having no boundaries. Okay. Whistleblowers reportedly tipped off the feds to launch a probe into Newsom, and Williamson's attorney told the Post that the client declined to cooperate because she had no information on Newsom. Okay. Podesta, a longtime Democrat power broker, remains on California's State Compensation Insurance Fund Board, where she received an annual compensation of $61,000 after Newsom appointed her in 2020. She previously served as Secretary of California Business, Consumer Services, and Housing Agency and held senior positions in Governor Jerry Brown's administration. She also worked for PG&E, Disney, and the late Dianne Feinstein. Podesta has not been charged with a crime, but her attorney, Bill Partanova, has identified her as the uncharged co-conspirator described in the Williamson indictment and confirmed that she has cooperated with federal investigators. The governor's office declined the Post's request for comment on the circumstances involving Podesta, saying it is a personal matter. Podesta and the attorney did not respond to requests for comment. Williamson pleaded guilty in May to conspiracy. That's Dana Williamson's, Gavin Newsom's former chief of staff, pleaded guilty in May to conspiracy to commit bank and wire fraud, filing a false tax return and making false statements to the FBI. Federal prosecutors allege Williamson and others orchestrated a scheme to siphon roughly $225,000 from the dormant campaign account belonging to former Health and Human Services Secretary Javier Becerra, who is now the front runner to be the next governor of California. How funny. Who's now the I should have read the next sentence. Who's now the Democratic frontrunner to succeed Gavin Newsom as governor. Williamson disguised the payments as legitimate consulting fees while routing the money to benefit Becerra's former chief of staff, Sean McCluskey. Podesta's attorney has said she inherited responsibility for overseeing Becerra's dormant campaign account after Williamson left private consulting to become Newsom's chief of staff in late 2022 and did not know the payments were improper. Yeah, right. Campaign finance records show Becerra's committee said Podesta company mostly $10,000 monthly installments during 2023 and 2024. According to court filings, Williamson, while serving as Newsom's chief of staff, shared confidential state government information with a co-conspirator who has since identified as Podesta regarding a corporate client, and reporting has identified as activist Blizzard. Okay, we're almost done here. Williamson's plea agreement states that she was captured in a June 2024 wiretap, strategizing with the co-conspirator about how to respond to a Public Records Act request involving a state's litigation against the company. Williamson and Podesta exchanged text messages on the issue. According to the court records, Podesta has not publicly commented on the matter. A spokesperson for the U.S. Attorney's Office that charged Williamson and is investigating the governor declined to comment Thursday. Hoover said the growing investigations has only deepened public skepticism around Newsom and the way the governor's office conducts business. Governor's office, Rob Bonta, Javier Becerra, the whole thing. The California government is beyond corrupt, and there's Shang Tao. The mayor out of Oakland got indicted. What is her name? Who's a former district attorney out of Alameda County? Is that Pamela Price, or am I thinking of a different name? Just so many people that were forced to resign, got indicted, all circling around the same stuff. And then Bonta funneling a bunch of money from his campaign to essentially pay for lawyers of the Duong brothers who were indicted with Shang Tao. Whole thing's a mess. The whole thing's a massive scandal. All of this stuff raises so many questions. He said, what is going on with this administration? What types of conversations are being had? I think the entire case should be really concerning for the general public. It's really raising a lot of mistrust, he added. I think it underlines how problematic the current administration is. Newsom is someone who wants to run for president of the United States. It's really disappointing to see that this is the level of our politics. Yeah, there's just massive corruption everywhere. And I just want to read some of the comments now. People bringing up the high-speed rail funding, just all sorts of different, non-governmental organizations that are started by Newsom's wife, Newsom's friends, and, just the scratch my back, I'll scratch yours type thing. Donate to my wife's non-governmental organization, and that money will get funneled back into my campaign. We'll give you no bid contracts, all that kind of shit. It's just it's become common practice. That's just what happens now. So Gavin Newsom responded to this. We'll watch a bit of this clip. From the Patrick Bet David podcast. Pete, thanks for stopping by. I appreciate you, bro. All right, let me share my screen here. Let's watch. I'm not going to play this whole thing because it's like a long clip, but we're gonna watch it anyway. Not the whole thing, but we'll watch some of it because Gavin Newsom responded to it. Oh, this better let me play. I'm gonna be rusty too, folks, so I apologize. All right, cool, it did. All right, so this is a clip from Patrick Bet David. He said, a war wire to infiltrate. Newsom had an FBI mole probing corruption. So let's hear him talk about this.
FBI infiltrated Gavin Newsom
Let me know if you guys got audio too, if you don't, for some reason.
Inner circle by convincing governor's ally to wear a wire. This is a New York Post story. The FBI had a mole inside Gavin Newsom's political orbit before the agency's corruption probe expanded into the governor and his wife. The Post has learned Democrat insider Alexis Podesta, 45, secretly recorded conversations during the criminal probe into Newsom's then chief of staff, Dana Williamson, 53, who pleaded guilty to federal fraud.
All right, he's reading the exact same article that I just read to you guys. So let's just listen to them talk about it really quick.
East. And so they're investigating Newsom. He said nothing about it. He hasn't come out. You see Gavin Newsom come out talking about these guys. I don't know what they're talking about. You know, this president, he's an absolute joke. He's despicable. He's horrible. You know, when
are you doing a Trump Newsom combo?
He does try. No, it's Gavin Newsom.
Okay.
Yeah, that was a terrible Newsom impersonation. He sounded like Trump.
I don't see Gavin Newsom sitting out there. I don't think we know what's going on here. I think we do know we got this. Newsom is not saying that. Newsom is not out there saying things, screwing around with the DOJ. I think there's something big coming because now they've said, we've got Williamson dead to rights, going to sentence. Now we're also investigating the Newsoms, and there's two things there. One, what, if anything, did they have to do with the Williamson crimes? And now they're investigating specifically the leak, the DOJ leak statement is their nonprofit. And remember, we know about the nonprofit. We know about the diaper math, and we know about a few things. So, Pat, it appears that there's some very real things going on. Will it amount to anything? Well,
no, nothing will happen. I'm calling it now. Nothing's going to happen.
Aunt Nancy Pelosi step in. Tune in tomorrow.
Well, and by the way, Tom, great freaking take. And just throwing this out there, the FBI doesn't put a wire on someone because of a rumor. A judge has to sign off on it. So that means they have freaking all the evidence that they needed for a judge to sign off and go and tap. This isn't just a rogue cash.
Your Honor, we believe this guy is dirty. We want a wire on this person. And we want, by the way, there was more than just the wire.
Yeah.
You know what they had?
What?
They had cell phone warrants. And so they said they've been listening to calls. It's in the statements.
Yeah. A lot of this comes back to the Shang Tao indictment. Shang Tao connected to Rob Bonta, then Javier Becerra's campaign money getting funneled in to protect Dana Williamson. Dana Williamson's connecting to Gavin Newsom, obviously Gavin Newsom's wife. All of this corruption shit ties together, and that's got to be why the judge signed off on it, because there's so much alleged fraud going on and money laundering, embezzlement, whatever, allegedly, that they figured they had enough to actually grant a warrant for it. So Gavin Newsom's press office responded to this video that Patrick Bet David just put out, this 12-minute segment where they're talking. And I haven't even read this yet, but I have a feeling it's going to be a shit ton of gaslighting, and we'll see. So Gavin Newsom's press office. This is not from Gavin Newsom. This is from that little bow tie wearing freaking dork that runs his account. So his press office says MAGA bootlickers are spreading false information that the New York comic book has refused to correct in an article filled with innuendo, not facts. The New York comic book. That's the New York Post. They are playing into Trump's lawless fishing expedition, empty-handed, but under orders from the White House to find something. The U.S. DOJ is now chasing ghosts. Instead of identifying evidence of wrongdoing and following it, this appears to be a broad search for anything they can use. Well, again, like what's his face just pointed out, a judge needs to grant a warrant. And let's not act like Shang Tao wasn't indicted and your attorney general isn't connected to the Duongs who were indicted alongside Shang Tao. Let's not pretend that isn't a thing. So here are the facts. Fact: there's no evidence that alleged use of a wire on one of the FBI's informants is in any way connected to the governor, despite what the piece clearly suggests. That investigation had nothing to do with the governor. The charges were against Miss Williamson. Nothing to do with the governor, but Miss Williamson was Gavin Newsom's former chief of staff. So nothing to do with Newsom, though. The charges against Miss Williamson concerned conduct from before she worked for the governor. Okay, well, do you guys have any sort of vetting process? Because you hired her after she committed these crimes that she pled guilty to. So does that reflect poorly on you at all? Okay. Second fact: Miss Williamson was offered a deal in exchange for information on the governor, as her lawyer said. After they raided her house in the early morning hours in November, hold on. She was offered a deal for information on the governor, and she was given a deal. So doesn't that imply that she had information on the governor? Okay. Miss Williamson was offered a deal in exchange for information on the governor, as her lawyer said, after they raided her house in the early morning hours of November of 2025. There was nothing for her to offer because there was no crime involving the governor. That's weird because she got a plea deal. So, okay. Fact. After Miss Williams' arrest, investigators pursued an allegation of misconduct involving the governor and our office. We cooperated and provided information that conclusively confirmed the allegation was baseless. Okay, what was the allegation? Curious. It'd be cool if you mentioned that, but okay. Next fact. Only weeks after receiving information making clear that the investigation had nowhere to go, the U.S. DOJ launched a flurry of new activity targeting the governor, the first partner, and other close to them, a fishing expedition that appears to be based on completely unrelated subjects. Okay, sure. Next fact. President Trump has called for the governor's arrest. Wasn't everybody calling for Trump's arrest? Recent reporting confirmed that leadership at a United States Attorney's Office has been pressing line prosecutions for weeks, coinciding with the recent flurry of new investigative activity to develop a case against the governor. Unnamed U.S. DOJ sources have confirmed that the investigation into the first partner began within this last year. The U.S. DOJ has repeatedly seized on any alleged allegation of evidence, no matter how thin or unreliable, to launch investigations targeting president's political opponents. Fact, the effort to smear Newsom and the latest chapter in the playbook of President Trump and those who carry his retribution campaign against those who perceived as political threats to him and his MAGA agenda. Judges and juries around the country have rejected these attempts, and this one has no stronger basis. That was a very long-winded run-on sentence. Ms. Podesta departed as an agency secretary appointed by Governor Newsom's predecessor within the first year of Newsom's taking office. The Post offers no real evidence she was in his orbit. Under the Post's theory, every one of them, more than 2,000 appointees to board and commissions, is somehow an ally and in political orbit of the governor, framing Ms. Podesta personal retaliation against Ms. Williamson as part of governor's inner circle is shoddy journalism. Again, she was his former chief of staff. So that Dana Williamson. So not part of his inner circle. Okay. It's not news that Ms. Podesta had recorded conversations. Ms. Williamson indictment included an excerpt from a transcript of a conversation between Ms. Williamson and an unnamed co-conspirator who wasn't charged, making it clear the conversation had been recorded by Ms. Podesta's lawyer, confirmed she was that person and that she had cooperated with investigators. Reporting from that time reflected that Ms. Podesta had recorded conversations with Ms. Williamson. Okay, this seems like they're really trying to get out in front of it, but Gavin hasn't come out and given any sort of press conference about this. He's not, putting up a big stink. That he probably has been told not to say shit about this because it's an ongoing investigation. So I don't know. I don't know what'll happen here, but it's sure interesting. But I don't think anything will happen from this. Oh, Danger, what up, man? Nice to see you. CCPino, nothing will happen. Look at Minnesota. What has happened to Waltz, Omar? Yeah, nothing will happen. This is all political theater, all of it. And I mean, is it just it's funny because these all could be real legit. It could be like a real legit investigation with, real legit crimes and everything, but everybody knows nothing will happen. But is it being used as a way to smear Gavin Newsom's good name ahead of a potential run for the White House? I don't know. I mean, politics is a dirty game, so we'll see. But man, I mean, the way the current administration is going, I will not be surprised if Gavin Newsom is the next president. So, I've been saying it for a while. People think there's no possible way it'll happen, but if Gavin gets the Democrat nomination, the whole party will rally behind him, and there will be insane, ungodly amounts of money to push for him to make it into the White House. So, all right, let's continue. We've got okay. All right, I'm making pretty good time. I'm probably not going to go that long tonight because I'm still getting back into the swing of things. So I don't know, maybe an hour, maybe an hour and a half. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. But there's like this Scott Wiener stuff I want to cover. If you guys aren't Californians and you don't know who Scott Wiener is, you should. He's one of the most prolific California politicians out there. He is the California state senator out of San Francisco, and he is running to take over Nancy Pelosi's seat in the House. So I don't know how well that's going to work because it is so Scott Wiener also, which we'll get into a little later, is the author and supporter of some of the most horrendous bills that have come across the California State Assembly and State Senate floor and have been passed, you know, like making it legal to give somebody HIV, like knowingly have HIV and then give it to somebody without telling them that you have HIV. The whole tiered sex offender registry thing where it's something like if it's within a 10-year age gap and you commit, you know, a sexual crime like a 24-year-old with a 14-year-old, that you won't have to get put on the sex offender registry. We'll get into all this stuff later, but the gender transition stuff, all this stuff. Scott Wiener is like the head of the wokest of the woke policies that have come across the California House floor. And the left is completely turned on him. It's wild. So Scott Wiener is a Israel supporting Jewish man. And there's an incident a while back, a few months back, where he was on stage with two other people and they were doing stupid woke Democrat like stuff where they would ask like yes or no questions. And they had like a little popsicle stick with a sign that said yes or no on it. So they would get asked yes or no questions and the three people would have to hold the stick up and say whether it's yes or no. And Scott Wiener was one of the people sitting up there and they asked something along the lines of like, do you support Israel and what they're doing in Gaza? And Scott Wiener refused to lift his little stick up saying yes or no. And that created quite a ripple through the progressive community out there in San Francisco. And the next day he came out and gave us, it was, the question was, is Israel committing a genocide in Gaza? That's what the question was. And Scott Wiener refused to answer. And that pissed everybody off on the left. And the next day he came out and gave like a really long-winded way of saying, you know what, I do now believe that Israel is committing a genocide in Gaza. But it was too little too late for the progressives. And they went after him, which is just, this is a perfect example of the left always eats itself. If you step outside the, you know, lines of what is accepted behavior or accepted opinions within the Democrat Party, you will be booted out. And now, like the most progressive of all of the people, progressive, I use that term not in an endearing way, the most progressive people in the California government, Scott Wiener, has now been turned on by the radical left. So there's two incidents that happened. So Scott Wiener like can't go out in public anymore. He gets bombarded by all these psychos, and it's, you know, I don't care. Like I don't care that he's being harassed relentlessly. Danger. Of course, I want to cover Scott Wiener. What's that supposed to mean, bro? Archangel, nice to see you. Thank you. So it's good to be back. Let's see. Blue Katu, good evening. Nice to see you. Wiggle Room. Wiggle Room? Who is this? Yes, this is. I don't call myself Mountain Goat. Other people do. I did make up the name though. It's like my alter ego, you guys. So leave me alone. I know it's a dorky name. Okay, so let's watch this clip from Scott Wiener getting harassed by these leftists at it's like a restaurant or a bar or something like that.
Hey, bro. Hey, Wiener, you gotta get the fuck out my hood, bro. It's free Palestine here. You already know what it is. We against the genocide. You think you're gonna come to my neighborhood, bro? You fucked up. It's gonna be a problem. There's innocent children being killed in Palestine. You don't come here like it's good, but you're pushing that genocidal agenda as a Zionist, bro. Free Palestine. Say free Palestine right now on camera, dog. Say it. 2026. I don't need to talk about none of that.
The look on his face, you almost feel bad for him. The thing I find funny about the left is, we'll take somebody on the right that I can't stand, Ben Shapiro or Mark Levin, for example. I can't stand either of those guys. A lot of people can't stand. That's the whole split that's going on the right now. Basically, the Israel first versus America first crowd right now. And the America first people, I don't think any of them would do to Scott Wiener what the left is doing to him right now. Approach him at a restaurant when he's trying to eat with his friends or family or whatever, and just berate him and make him insanely uncomfortable. People might say stuff to Ben Shapiro, but they're not gonna I wouldn't. And I don't think a lot of people would follow him around and harass him and try to make his life a living hell. But that's what the left's doing, and couldn't happen to a better guy.
I'm talking to him. This is a mission district. You should be ashamed. You have no shame coming to my community.
Can I just say, are those leopard print glasses that he's wearing? I think those are leopard print glasses.
It's a mission district, homie. Free Palestine, bro. Hey, are you trying to defend him? I don't want to talk to you. I'm talking to him. Why are you not saying nothing? Why are you not saying nothing, bro? Why are you not saying nothing? Say free Palestine for the camera, dog. You say you're against the genocide, right? That's what you said? Because you're running for office? Say free Palestine then. Say free Palestine. You can put your face on camera, but you can't speak on his behalf. You're a politician, right? You're a senator. You're a position of power. This is what you thought, bro.
I will say that if Gavin Newsom decides to run for president, which I think he's already decided, this is one topic that he rarely speaks on. He very rarely speaks on the topic of Israel, Gaza, Lebanon, the Iran war, all that stuff. But he's going to have to. And the left has become rabid when it comes to anybody that supports Israel right now, which, and ironically, this segment's supposed to be about Scott Wiener, but I'll take a little side quest on this one. The whole Israel, Gaza, Iran war, political influence they have over our government thing is strangely bringing some aspects of the left and some aspects of the right back to the table to be able to have open conversations with each other. Because there's a ton of people on the right that do not support anything that Israel is doing, and they do not like the amount of influence that they have over our government. So a lot of people on the left are kind of oh, maybe some of these people aren't so bad. So you're seeing, interviews between people like Anna Kasparian and Tucker Carlson, and Anna Kasparian and Candace Owens and Cenk Uygur, the Young Turks people, and they're having conversations, and it's sort of bringing not the left and the right back together, but to, instead of looking for all the things that we disagree about, finding the things that we do have common ground on, and okay, how can we work together to solve those problems? So it's sort of an interesting dynamic that's playing out right now with this whole Israel situation.
To the mission district, you will get called for the bullshit you do to our people. Maybe everyone here doesn't know what you've done, but I know. Mario Woods, Alex Nieto, Luis Gongora, when they were killed by SFPD, you didn't stand for them. You were silent. Silent as our people got gunned down in these streets. And you come to my community and you think it's okay. It's not okay, bro. It's not okay.
All right, so this just goes on for another minute and a half. You guys get the point. I think he ended up leaving, and again, you almost feel bad for him, but not quite. I don't feel bad for him at all. This is the bed you made for yourself. So sucks for you, Scott Wiener. Everybody already couldn't stand him before. I don't know how he keeps getting reelected, but wiggle room. So sick of Democrats. So am I, but I'm also super sick of Republicans. I'm sick of all of it. I'm completely sick of both sides of the political aisle and this whole I'm on the left, I'm on the right team tribalist bullshit. I'm just sick of all of it. And it's sort of driving me insane. That's part of the reason why I took this big hiatus that I did. All right. So then Scott Wiener, who's also gay, by the way, and there's some very, let's just say, interesting photos of him on the internet floating around that I don't recommend you go look up. But he was at a Pride event, as you know. Last night was Gay Month, and there was a bunch of gay celebrations everywhere. And Scott Wiener tried to go to them like he always does. And man, he got shouted down by this guy. And this guy is like super well known in San Francisco as just being a radical, insane leftist. And he sort of led the charge on this episode of denouncing Scott Wiener. So let's watch this one. It was about 2 minutes long.
Scott, I think your legislation on trans issues and your legislation specifically protecting queers on the sex offender registry is fantastic.
Okay, so like that's how this starts off. Did you hear what he just said? I think your legislation on protecting queers on sex offender registries is fantastic. Like, how insane is that to start off this conversation with? I think protecting people that have committed sex crimes is fantastic, but you did this other thing wrong. Like, it's so backwards, upside down. It's freaking insane, but it's like almost hilarious at the same time because these people are absolute nutbags. And then you've got, you know, rainbow mohawk guy in the background here. I'm not going to make any judgments there, but okay, we'll continue.
Like, I really applaud you for that, and I think you deserve to be here for that. But I think your housing policy, and specifically your housing policy aligning with YIMBYs, and I think your policy, and I think your policy on the genocide in Gaza, and I think your policy on the genocide in Gaza, it's terrible.
And you hear his voice change, like the other people, like the crowd comes. First, he's talking to him like, I think you did this right. Like almost like he's trying to have a conversation with them. Like, I think this thing that you did was good and that thing that you did was good. And then you hear people coming up screaming at him, and he all of a sudden change into, it's political theater, into just somebody that's rabid and you're disgusting. And it's all fake and gay, all of it. It's all just virtue signaling nonsense. But now Scott Wiener is the victim of it when he's led the charge on this exact same kind of bullshit for decades now.
I think you do not belong here. I think you do not belong here. You do not belong here, Scott, anymore. It sucks because you've been wonderful. You've been wonderful for trans people, and you've been terrible. And you've been terrible. You've been terrible. You've been terrible on Gaza.
Yeah, it's funny because I, as all you guys already know, I do not support Israel. I am not a fan of what Israel's doing in Gaza, the Iran war, any of this stuff. But all of these people that are even more rabid than me, they probably couldn't pick up this globe here and spin it to where Israel is and point at it. They probably couldn't do that. They probably don't know anything about the history of Israel. They don't know anything about the history of Palestine. I'll keep going. But none of these people probably know anything about this shit. They just know that, oh, this is our leftist position that we're supposed to have. So anybody that doesn't have this position, we're going to shout them down and call them evil demon monsters when we actually don't even know what's going on. They just repeat stuff.
You do not belong here anymore, Scott, and it breaks my fucking heart. It breaks my heart. It breaks my heart.
Imagine being intimidated by a guy running after you wearing Rocky Horror Picture Show shorts and tights. Like, imagine being intimidated by this guy. Oh, that's a rough world there in San Francisco. Look at this chick in the background just staring at that's a perfect look right there. I'd make this full screen so you guys can see. Just you got the Rocky Horror Picture Show shorts here, yelling at him, intimidating him. Then you got this lady in the background just like, oh God, it's Scott Wiener.
My heart that someone who wrote good legislation for queers is so fucking terrible on Gaza. Scott, do you have anything to say? Do you have anything to say about Gaza? How could you do this to San Francisco? How could someone like you do this to San Francisco? Scott, say something. Redeem yourself. Do something. Scott, I want to like the person who had such good legislation on trans rights. Scott, I want
to support someone who's so positive on trans rights, but you're a piece of shit on Gaza. How could you do that? How could you betray queers? How could you oppress people?
You stopped being queer the moment you started supporting Israel, you piece of shit!
The moment you started supporting Israel, he's always supported Israel, you morons. Like, it's only recently you've been told that it's bad what's happening over there. You probably never even freaking heard of Palestine before 2023. I don't know. It's funny because, like, I actually agree with the overall sentiment. I would never take this approach. I don't support Israel. I don't like what's going on in Gaza. But it's just that these people don't have any, like Nature Boy over here on Rumble said, both are they are just programmed NPCs who only react but cannot think. 100%. I 100% agree. It's fine to have positions on things, but when your political ideas are just implanted in your brain, and then like, this is what I'm supposed to be mad about, and I have to denounce anybody that doesn't agree with it. I don't know why, but I just know that I have to yell and scream and curse at them and make their life a living hell. That's who we're dealing with here, and it's almost funny. Nature Boy, again on Rumble, both are narcissistic freaks who are both probably on multiple medications. I do not doubt that at all. I don't doubt that. So many of these people are hopped up on what is it? Yeah. Pharmaceuticals. Yeah, 100%. Wiggle room. Do one thing I don't like and you're dead to me. That's what the left is. Yeah, but I mean, there's aspects that are on the right too. There's 100% aspects that are on the right too. And that's why I'm just completely sick of both sides. And part of the reason I took a break from all of this for a while. So yeah, that's the Scott Wiener thing. And he had a response to all of this, which you guys probably won't read along with me. So I'll just read it to you here. So this is Scott Wiener's response. Well, this is from his personal account, but clearly somebody else wrote this. So Senator Wiener's statement on physical intimidation, harassment of political leaders. San Francisco, in two separate incidents this week, which I both just played for you, Senator Scott Wiener, Democrat of San Francisco, was harassed, threatened, and physically intimidated while attending public events to engage with the San Francisco community. Both incidents were sparked by people who had previously targeted Senator Wiener with aggressive behavior in the past. Senator Wiener issued the following statements on the incidents. Okay. Last night, I attended the Trans March, as I've done each year for the past 22 years since the 1st of March in 2004. I attended each year in solidarity with our trans siblings who are facing existential threats from right-wing extremists. Again, like, what existential threats? Like, nobody gives a shit what you do. Just leave kids alone. Stop cutting little girls' boobs off and stop giving puberty blockers. Like, just stop. Like, nobody has a problem with freaking dress however you want. Say you're a chick if you're actually a dude. I don't give a shit. Just stop trying to compete against women in their sports and going into their locker rooms and shit. And anyway, it has been a deep honor to partner for many years with the trans people and advance legislation and budget requests to support the community. As I walked through Dolores Park to participate in a trans-led Pride Shabbat service, oh wow. This was a trans-led Pride Shabbat service in connection with our trans march. I'm not even going to make any jokes here. A group of people began screaming at me, ran up to me, surrounded me, and began harassing me, both verbally and physically, including physical contact. They made statements about my Israeli handlers, among many other inaccurate, extreme, and vile statements. They were so physically and verbally aggressive that it was impossible for me to safely remain in the park. As a result, I left the park and for the very first time did not participate in the Trans March. Oh, poor guy. This follows an incident on Wednesday night at a bar in the Mission where I'd go to watch the World Cup game. During the game, a man accosted me in the corner of the bar, effectively cornering me and the young woman staffers who were with me. He screamed, "How do you know what a woman is, Scott? How dare you gender her?" He screamed abuse at me and our staff before being ejected by the bar's employees. After being ejected, the man remained outside the bar, shouting my name and pounding on the side of the bar near where I was sitting for several minutes. The same individual in December of 2023 stalked me on a plane in an airport, shouting at me about my tainted bloodline. Okay. I have no objection whatsoever to anyone disagreeing with me, opposing me, or protesting me. All of that is core to democracy. I also have no issues when people talk to me on the street and ask questions or express opposition. That's democracy, even when people engaging in this conduct misrepresent my views. But when opposition and disagreement transition to harassment, including cornering me, touching me, or trying to physically bully me out of the public event, that crossed the line. We are living in a time when violence is all too often threatened or used against the public, used against people in public life. In San Francisco, we're better than that. Actually, no, you're not, Scott. This is the Democrat playbook in a nutshell. Anybody on the right that this was happening to, you'd be cheering for it. That's bullshit. Everything you just said. This whole thing that happened to you was created by you and people with your same ideology. Intimidation, political intimidation, public harassment, threats of violence, all of this stuff is standard leftist playbook. Don't pretend that this is some new phenomenon that only happened to you because you happen to be Jewish. That's not what this is about. This is the Democrat playbook. So, like, let's not pretend this is a new thing and you were just the first victim of this type of political targeting. It's freaking absurd. Okay. Danger. Israel is gay and Palestine is the real Atlantis. Oh my God. Oh, you just got put on a watch list, bro. Those that suck Satan's dick will get a load of fire down their throat. Oh my God. Nature Boy, you're going to be kicked off of YouTube. I'm streaming live on YouTube, bro. I probably should, man. I'm going to have to read your comments before I say them out loud, even though that's freaking hilarious. The statement is nothing more than a series of Barnum statements strung together for a long-winded statement of low-grade bullshit. That was actually kind of beautiful, the way you put that. Are you a writer? Do you write stuff? Because that was actually very elegant, the way you phrased that. Okay, so that's what happened to Scott Wiener, and quite interesting. Could be the, next congressman out of San Francisco. We will see. Oh, no, Nature Boy, don't worry. It's all good. I've read way worse stuff than that on here. So all good. Don't you say anything you want. I will reap the consequences, whatever they are. It's all good, dude. All right, so let's keep going here. So this actually kind of ties in with the Scott Wiener stuff. So in the state Senate, they were trying to make it illegal for people that have been convicted of sex crimes, sex offenders. They were trying to make it so they couldn't run for office in California. Seems fairly logical, right? If you're a sex offender running for office, that's not going to be for you. Well, that became a big argument. On the House floor. I believe it was the Senate floor. So it's from Ashley Zavala. She says, drama right now in the Senate Elections Committee. As Esmeralda Soria is trying to prevent people who have been registered as sex offenders from running for public office with AB 2753, she refuses to accept the amendments from committee chair Scott Wiener, which would only prevent those who are registered for life. Okay, so let's see what Scott Wiener had to say about this. Share this with you guys. So obviously Scott Wiener is going to oppose that because he just loves sex offenders. Somebody freaking check this guy's hard drive.
I will be voting no on this bill and recommending that the committee vote no.
Is that volume okay for you guys?
Sex offender registry is not punishment. It is a tool for law enforcement to be able to monitor people who may potentially cause a risk. And when we use the sex offender registry as a proxy for anything else, we get into problems. The way this bill was drafted and the way it passed out of the assembly would have gone back, and the way the bill is in print today, anyone who has ever at any moment in time, whether today or 70 years ago, would be precluded from running for office for life. I appreciate that the author has acknowledged that the bill does need to change, but the amendment that the author has suggested will still sweep in anyone on the registry for any reason in all three tiers and that's just not something that I can support.
Oh, geez. I don't want to agree with Scott Wiener at all right here, but I mean, there are people that end up on a sex offender registry that shouldn't be. Very few and far between. But we're not talking about, I don't know, like if a 20-year-old dates a 17-year-old, you know, and they get put on a sex offender registry, even though a 20-year-old probably shouldn't be dating a 17-year-old, but it's not the same as somebody that raped somebody, you know? So I don't want to get myself in trouble here because I don't know. Yeah. But the running for office thing. Yeah. If you're on a sex offender registry and you want to run for office and you feel that you were on that registry for not good reasons, that you didn't actually commit a crime, then you should be able to go to court to get taken off that registry and then run for office. So I don't have any problem with this bill. Yeah, if you're on a sex offender registry, I do not believe you should be able to run for office in California, even if you feel that you were unjustly put on that sex offender registry. Get taken off of it. Prove that it was unjust and get taken off of it. I mean, if you are put on a sex offender registry, it was most likely that you were that you were convicted of a crime, a sex crime. So I don't know. That is a dicey one. I actually understand the argument that he's making. I just still don't agree with it. So I'll leave it there. Yeah, you guys, let me know your thoughts on that one, because that is kind of an interesting one. Are there people put on the sex offender registry that shouldn't be put on the sex offender registry? What percentage of people is that? And we're talking about running for public office. We're not talking about anything else, keeping them from getting employment or something like that. So I don't know. Interesting. But apparently it didn't pass. So Ashley Zavala says again, breaking: California lawmakers in the Senate Elections Committee kill bill that would have prevented people registered as sex offender from running for office. So as of right now, people in California who are on the sex offender registry can run for office. So I asked Grok like some of the like most prolific bills that Scott Wiener has passed or authored or supported or authored, I should say. Says so this one was crazy. The sex offender registration reform for certain consensual acts. And this is wild because children cannot consent, but the way they phrase this is as if children can consent. So Wiener authorized a bill to address what supporters called discrimination in California sex offender registry rules. Under prior law, non-forcible oral or anal sex involving a minor 14 years or older and a defendant less than 10 years older could trigger automatic lifetime registration in some cases, unlike similar heterosexual vaginal intercourse scenarios, which often allowed judicial discretion. SB 145 aligned rules by making registration discretionary for qualifying close in age consensual acts. Close in age, a 24-year-old and a 14-year-old? Are you kidding me? The 14-year-old cannot consent. A 15-year-old, a 16-year-old cannot consent. That's where you get into the whole argument, because it's like legal age of consent in, I think the UK is what, 16 or something like that? Anyway, while preserving all criminal penalties for assault, rape, or exploitation, it passed both House and was signed by Governor Gavin Newsom in 2020. So that means that consensual oral or anal sex between a 24-year-old and a 14-year-old, you don't necessarily get put on a lifetime sex offender registry. That's insane. So, and according to, even if that bill would have, the amendment Scott Wiener wanted to make to that bill would be if it's people that were ever on a sex offender registry, because you can get taken off the sex offender registry. Well, this bill that was passed made it so somebody is 24 years old, if they have oral or anal sex with somebody that's 14 years old or 15 years old, that they don't necessarily have to be put on a lifelong sex offender registry, which is insane to me. The amendment that Scott Wiener wanted to add to that bill was making it so people that have been taken off the sex offender registry can still run for office. So you see how these tie together? It's freaking insane. Absolutely insane. So, okay. some other things. He's actually the one that tried to make, I think he did the decriminalization of psilocybin mushrooms, which, I mean, some people like that. I don't really care. I'm a libertarian, so, I don't really care about the criminalization of drugs. That's a whole other conversation. I don't even want to get into it right now, but yes, I don't think you should be able to do like hard drugs out on the street, but I do think that there should be like stores you should be able to buy drugs from, including hard drugs that are, somewhat regulated by the government. I think you'd get cleaner drugs. Fentanyl wouldn't be a problem because drugs would be cheaper, cleaner, better, and cheaper. So you wouldn't have stuff like fentanyl killing everybody all over the streets. It's a whole different conversation. A bunch of you guys probably disagree with me on that. So we could have a debate on that at some other time. This one's crazy. SB 239, HIV criminal law modernization. That's the bill that made it so if you know that you have HIV and you have sex with somebody and don't tell them and give them HIV, it's not a crime. You're not committing a crime, which is like, at the very least, that is just evil. It's just evil to have sex with somebody with any STD and not be transparent with them ahead of time. That is just evil. So, yeah. So those are some of like the most prolific things that Scott Wiener has supported and been responsible for. So we'll continue. I apologize. My dog is barking at most likely my neighbor's cat who likes to walk up to my door and harass my dogs. Okay, let's keep going here. All right, it's probably the last topic I'm going to cover tonight, but no, I got 2 more topics to cover. So I'm going to try to keep this to 90 minutes, try to get both of these in the next half hour or so. So this is just this new software tax that California has passed that I think tons of people don't know about. And from my understanding, and we'll find out if I'm accurate by the end of the segment here, from my understanding, this new software tax is a tax on corporations for every individual account. For like, if you guys work for a company and you use WebEx or Slack or Microsoft Teams or any of those, so you can text each other internally without having to use your phone's text messages. It's a Slack. It's like an internal messaging service. That's just one example. I'm sure there's tons of other software licenses that you need to buy for coders. But from my understanding, this new tax will, for every software license that's issued, for every individual person within a company, they're going to have to pay an extra tax on that individual licensed software. And it appears that it may actually apply to more than just corporations. Let's watch this quick video. Wall Street Apes posted this. Molly, knock it off. I'm trying to be professional, Molly. All right, let me play this. I'm going to mute myself.
Gavin Newsom's going to sign it. They're going to tax all pre-written software. They're going to rake in another $2 billion off that little maneuver. And they now define pre-written software as everything from Microsoft Office, Gmail accounts, Android operating systems. If you think about it, if it has a computer, it has pre-written software. California is now going to tax that.
He's right. A lot of people think this new software tax is going to just tax corporate software, but it's actually going to tax everything. And Democrats plan to make $2 billion per year from this new tax. Here are some examples. Everything from Microsoft Office, Gmail, like you mentioned, Workday. This is a corporate solution. Adobe Creative Cloud. So this is anybody who uses Photoshop, Premiere, any of those editing softwares. Cloud-based CRMs, Android operating system, accounting software, productivity suites like Zoom, so Zoom calls also, HR payroll stuff, any mobile desktop apps sold digitally. So Democrats are coming for everything.
Sorry, guys. My dogs are freaking losing it right now. I don't know what's going on outside, but something is. All right. So you see what he said right there. So like basically any software license that's issued by a corporation is now going to become more expensive for every individual user. This isn't like a one-time tax on corporations. So I would not be surprised if in the next few months, corporations are going to start saying to employees, like, it's not vital for you to have this software, so we're taking it away from you. It's going to reduce productivity. And it's just going to get more expensive for everybody. And who's going to ultimately pay for this? It's going to be the consumer. All of these corporations that now have more overhead, they're going to pass on to the consumer, no matter what the company is. So it's just another tax on the middle class. Even though it's a tax on corporations directly, it'll end up being a tax on the middle class because they're just going to pass it on to us like every other tax. It's absurd. It's insane. So I asked Grok to kind of break it down for us. Oh, Molly, please stop. Hold on. I have to yell at my dog really quick. Did I tell you guys I got a new Great Dane puppy? Yeah, that's the result of it. Okay, so I asked Grok to give me a breakdown on this new software tax. California has enacted a new sales tax and new sales and use tax on digital pre-written software and SaaS, that's software as a service. All right, guys, I got to pause this. I apologize. I'm going to have to find a new solution here, guys. My dog is insane. All right, so I'll continue. It expands California's existing sales tax, which already covers pre-written software on physical media like discs, to cover modern delivery methods. The goal is to modernize the tax base, address inconsistencies in how similar products are taxed, and generate revenue estimated $90 million annually for the general fund, and $1.1 billion for local sales tax. That's just poof. Hey, we're gonna add this much in taxes. That not reduce our spending. We're just gonna, just tax everybody more because we can't control our spending. It's insane. What is the tax? What is tax? So pre-written computer software. This includes off-the-shelf or standardized software sold to multiple consumers regardless of delivery method, physical media, electronic download, and remote access. So yeah, you guys, I think you guys get the gist of it. They're just, I think tons of corporations that, like nationwide corporations that have offices in California, they're going to, I believe a bunch of them aren't even aware this is happening yet. I don't think the company that I work for knows this is happening yet, but this is going to be a huge new expense for tons of companies. And I don't even know if they know what's going on. So it's kind of insane. All right, that's it for the software tax. But again, this is going to make things a little bit more expensive. Just stuff that you buy from like subscription services, all sorts of stuff. It's going to get passed on to you. So, all right, that's enough about the tax. But we got there's like one more story that I want to cover because this is more local. This is for the California State Superintendent rule over the schools. This is a woman named Sonja Shaw just won. I voted for her. She's pretty awesome. If you guys don't follow her on X, you should. But basically, after she won the election, Gavin Newsom decided we're going to take a bunch of the responsibilities of the California State Superintendent away from that role and put it under the direct supervision of the governor. So, now we have somebody in there that we can't control, that we don't like. We're going to take all of the important responsibilities away from that role. So this is an article from the California Post. Gavin Newsom passes biggest power grab in California history over state superintendent role. So they say Republican candidate for governor, state superintendent Sonja Shaw has accused Gavin Newsom of orchestrating a sweeping power grab and leaving office she wants to run powerless. Newsom couldn't win at the ballot box, so he changed the rules. He just rammed through one of the biggest power grabs in California history, Shaw told the California Post. This isn't education reform. California's children deserve leaders who answer to the voters. She led in the June primary with she won. We'll just say she won. We'll continue with the article. Shaw was referring to Assembly Bill 181, an education budget trailer bill signed by Gavin Newsom last week. The measure was fast-tracked alongside California 2026-2027 state budget, allowing it to move through the legislation as part of the budget process rather than the traditional committee hearing process used for most standalone bills. Another just shady way of doing it. The legislation has drawn criticism from opponents who urge it fundamentally restructures California's education system by transferring powers previously exercised by the independently elected Superintendent of Public Instruction to go to a governor-appointed official. Newsom slipped this into the budget process and rushed it through Sacramento before the public could fully scrutinize it. That should alarm every Californian, regardless of political party, Shaw told the Post. We will remember those who voted against protecting our children once again. AB 181 removes much of the superintendent's executive authority over California's public education system. Previously, the superintendent oversaw California's Department of Education, managing thousands of employees while administering state grants, contracts, and educational programs. Under the new law, those operational responsibilities shift to a governor-appointed executive, while the elected superintendent retains constitutional duties, but largely serves in an advisory and oversight role. So they literally just stripped her of all of her decision-making power because they got somebody in office that they didn't like, a Republican, and just expanded the bureaucratic monster that they have created here in California. Because the office of superintendents is established in California's constitution, it cannot be eliminated without voter approval through the constitutional amendment. So they just created a new job and shifted the responsibilities of the superintendent to that person. So shady. Instead, critics argue the law leaves the elected official with significantly diminished authority while executive control over California's education system shifts to the governor's administration. Matt Klink, a Sacramento-based political strategist, said the timing of the change is tough to ignore. Coming just months before the November runoff and weeks after Sonja Shaw finished first in the primary, the timing is impossible to ignore. Some Democrats will call it governance reform, he told the Post. Politically, it looks like Sacramento saw the possibility of a Republican parents' right candidate winning statewide office and move to make the office significantly less powerful before voters could decide. This is a major political move by Governor Newsom because it changes the practical meaning of an elected office voters are about to fill. The state superintendent would still be elected, but the real management authority over the California Department of Education would shift to a governor-appointed director, he added. Shaw said voters had chosen an independent watchdog, not another political puppet controlled by the governor. She also argued Newsom's administration is responding to mounting frustration among parents over California's educational system. All right, I think you guys get the gist of it. They're trying to strip the superintendent of her roles. So Ashley Zavala interviewed some people over this. This is California Assembly Education Chair, Dr. Darshana Patel. Let's listen to this quick clip.
The question that we're really trying to answer this week is what educational outcomes specifically can we expect with this big change with the Department of Education?
It is a big change with the Department of Education. The SPI will still be an elected position, elected by the public as a nonpartisan position. But what we hope to see is a streamlining of the administration of public education in California. So with the new commission, that will be a commissioner that will be appointed by the governor and confirmed by the state senate, we'll have an actual administrator administrating the governance vision and the policies of the State Board of Education. So it'll be a clear line of authority and chain of command. So our folks on the ground will now know who exactly to reach out to, who the community can hold accountable for delivering on public education.
They already have that. It's already the state superintendent's responsibility, and they're just stripping her of those responsibilities because they're nervous that somebody the governor can't control will be in charge of those responsibilities. So they're adding a position to the California government, stripping the superintendent of those responsibilities and handing it to that hand-pointed position of Gavin Newsom. It's insane.
But the superintendent of public instruction voters have been under the impression that that's the person to be held accountable. Like, why create this brand new position and not leave the Department of Education under the SPI?
Well, that's exactly the challenge that we're trying to address here. The voters have had this impression that the SPI is actually a very independent position. But if you look at the way the structure actually is, you'll see that the State Board of Education, which is all appointed by the governor, gives direction to the SPI. And the SPI has to implement the policies that the state board delivers.
Then that's not direction. That's a command. And you're saying that the state superintendent has no agency to make their own decisions. Is that what you're saying? That the state superintendent actually doesn't have these powers and they're already under control of the governor? If that's the case, why not just leave that in place?
And they have to administer over the 2,000 employees of the California Department of Education. So they're actually not quite that independent. What this change will do is we'll create an office of the Superintendent of Public Instruction, which will actually be an independent watchdog, which will have the authority and the positions and the appointments on different boards throughout the state, which will give it that independent, actual, visionary position of delivering on education for California.
So
do you see how she's speaking out of both sides of her mouth right here? Well, the superintendent isn't independent. They're actually under the control of the governor. But in order to draw that line more clearly, we're going to strip the superintendent of the powers that she has and give them to somebody else. Which one is it? Does she have the power? Does the superintendent have the power to have agency over these decisions, or does the superintendent not have this power? She's speaking out of both sides of her mouth right now to try and justify this new bullshit position.
It's not just K through 12. And that's the important part. With the new changes in the SPI will have oversight all the way from preschool to higher education.
When you say oversight, though, do you mean auditing power? Is it like what oversight specifically?
So this SPI, the phase 2 of the plan that we have put forward, will give the SPI, the elected SPI in November, the commissioner who will be appointed in January, as well as the legislature, oversight and input into what that phase 2 looks like to define that role. So the incoming SPI will have that position at the table to negotiate their own roles and responsibilities. It's an incredible opportunity, and the timing actually only works in between cycles like this.
Okay, so I just want to go back to the first question, though.
Yeah.
What educational outcomes? We know California students are struggling in reading, math,
Absolutely.
science, virtually many subjects. What will this do for those educational outcomes?
So on the ground, what we'll see is a streamlined process. When our LEAs are looking for supports, they're going to be able to go to the CDE through their counties or directly to the CDE, and they will have a qualified administrator leading them to addressing all of their concerns. When there's a new program that is rolled out by the governor and it's put in through the budgetary process, the administrator of the commissioner of the California Department of Education will be in line and synced up with that policy. And they will have clear budgetary authority to provide resources to those local agencies who are trying to implement these broad policy shifts. There will be clear accountability. So if a school district is trying to implement a new policy from the state and they're not adequately resourced, they can go directly to the commissioner who has a direct chain of command to the governor.
All of this stuff already exists, except the governor isn't directly in charge of the state superintendent. But every state superintendent thus far has been a puppet of Gavin Newsom. And now they don't have one that's a puppet of Gavin Newsom. So they need to strip the incoming superintendent of those responsibilities so Gavin Newsom can still have his puppet master control over these decisions. That's all she's saying right now. This is a bunch of word salad gobbledygook.
Who's controlling the state budget.
But are there thresholds, like guarantees that this will help?
So what we're doing right now isn't working.
No shit.
And for over 100 years, there have been report after report after report showing that this fractured governance system, where we have the State Board of Education, who is appointed by the governor, competing with, or sometimes not in line with, an independently elected SPI. And what that means on the ground level is that people don't know how to implement or to what threshold they need to implement a new policy. This will streamline that.
When they say streamline, they mean that they won't have somebody that's independent of the governor's office making decisions around California education anymore. Instead, the governor will maintain his puppet master control of the California Department of Education. That's all she's saying right here. This isn't transparency or making it more streamlined, or these things aren't being put into place to help the California Department of Education, or, increase test scores, make kids actually get a better education at California public schools. All of this is just to maintain power over what schools can do. That's it. That's all this is.
What we're doing right now isn't working. As you said, we have literacy rates that are not where they need to be. Math understanding, number sense, not where it needs to be. Our UC system, you saw the report from UCSD and from Cal. Kids are coming in, students are coming into college without having a good understanding of basic algebra.
I wonder if that has anything to do with the fact that we shut down schools for 4 years for a virus that is a little bit more dangerous than the flu. I wonder if that has anything to do with it. Now that we're 2 years away from that, so kids that were robbed of their entire high school education are now entering college and they can't do basic algebra. I wonder if that has anything to do with it. Oh, I wonder if the incoming state superintendent would have put the kibosh on that shit after the first year of forcing all these kids to stay home and do remote learning. This is insane. She's acting like California policies didn't have anything to do with kids' poor performance coming into college. This shit's infuriating.
We can't keep doing the same thing that we've been doing and expect a different result.
That's exactly what they're doing. This is such gaslighting. It's freaking insane. Let's see what Sonja Shaw, who is likely the next state superintendent of education, let's see what she has to say about this. She's an awesome chick, actually. I tried to get her on the show. She didn't respond, but we'll see if she does. All right, listen to what she has to say.
Oh my gosh, guys, look at this. This is wild, but you need to hear it. Gavin Newsom is straight up panicking. Word is around the Capitol today that he's completely terrified that I'm going to win the state superintendent race, linked arms with all of you. And honestly, the timing tells you everything. This is perfect timing. For the first time in 4 years, Mr. Newsom himself suddenly gives a state of the state address. And what does he do? He proposes stripping power from the state superintendent office. Come on, guys. The writing is on the wall. Let me be clear. This has nothing. I mean, you guys know it has nothing to do with accountability. Kids can't even read, write, and do math. That's a complete lie. This is a power grab, plain and simple. Dude, it's like he keeps doing this junk, right? Why? Because he knows exactly what I will continue to do in that seat. I fought tooth and nail for you guys, and I have been on the front lines of protecting our kids. We have flipped school boards. We have won court battles. We have linked arms with others that have won court battles. We protected our girls' safety, and we continue to do so. And we are putting reading, writing, and math ahead of politics in the classroom, and he loathes that. He absolutely hates it. The state superintendent is a constitutional office. You guys, us, the voters, created it to be independent from corrupt governors like Newsom and the entrenched insiders just like this. And I intend to use it to empower families and not the bureaucrats like they are doing. Look, we all know our kids are on a pathway to disaster with them at the hands of them. Kids are being put at risk, and Sacramento wants more control instead of real solutions that we are providing linked arms. This is our moment, guys. This is another gift from Gavin Newsom himself. If you're ready to fight, I ask you to stand with me. Linked arms, donate, share this video with every single person you know. Share my website, shaw4forca.com. We need to get more school board members elected around California. We're going to win this for our children, and I couldn't be more excited. As I go across California, we will continue to fight the good fight. Linked arms. Love you guys. Vote Sonja Shaw. Let's go.
So she already won in the primary. She's moving on, and we'll see if she wins in the general election. But yeah, it's insane. They're worried that they are going to lose control of the California Department of Education so they can push their freaking pinko commie radical trans agenda on students and, have the state have more power over children than their actual parents. So they're terrified somebody's going to come in there that actually wants to protect students and restore parental rights. So they're going to try to strip the power from that position that she likely will win in order to protect the agenda, protect the California insane leftist agenda. So yeah, that's going on. So that's kind of the most recent things I wanted to cover. Lots of just continuous California stuff going on, but there's so many other things that I wanted to talk about. Like, it already passed, but this whole like Pride Day thing with the San Francisco Giants. Like, I don't talk sports a lot, but wanted to talk about that. I wanted to talk a little bit about not so much the World Cup, but the fact that tons of people are coming to America from other countries for the first time for the World Cup, and they're seeing that America is way cooler than they were told. And it's sort of a joy to see. A whole bunch of stuff that I wanted to cover, but I'm not going to be able to get into. I will be back here next Sunday. Probably even be back here on Wednesday, just doing another stream. So if there's any topics that you guys want me to cover, DM me on X, and I'll see if I can mix those into the show. So any California topics, any geopolitical topics, national news topics that you want me to cover, I'd be happy to accept suggestions from you guys. So that's all I got. I'm glad I'm back. I'll try to be much more consistent every Sunday night at 6 o'clock. And I'll try to mix one in during the week. And, I'll be putting up short little individual stories that I want to cover as the week goes on. So thank you everybody for hanging out. Nature Boy over on Rumble. We do deserve better propaganda. I appreciate you. Julie Aaron, you're awesome over on X. Let's see who else we got. Danger, you're the man. I will be seeing you on Thursday. Going shooting with Danger. It's going to be fun. Wiggle Room, you're awesome. Blue K2, good to see ya. Archangel over on Rumble, good to see ya. CC Pino on YouTube, you're the man. Pete Grabber, you already went to the gym, so thanks for stopping by. You are awesome. Yara over on YouTube, you're the best. So, yeah, that is all I got for tonight. But you know how we do it. Before we get out of here, we got to tell a joke from the greatest book ever written, The Truth About Chuck Norris. That book has been destroyed by my dogs. But this is the sequel. Chuck Norris cannot be stopped, courtesy of Danger over here in the chat. You know the rules. I open the book to a random page. My eyes go to a joke, and I read it. Sometimes it's good. Sometimes it's not. Chuck Norris, joke of the evening. Chuck Norris once played Duck, Duck, Goose with a group of kindergartners. Only one kid made it to the first grade. And on that note, stay Calibased.